Hello, this is Patrick with OneCNCWest, and thank you for the opportunity to demonstrate OneCNC CADCAM. Let's take a look at how we can load a CAD file and then quickly apply Toolpath to machine a component that looks just like this. All right, let's get started. Now, the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to open up a CAD file. And notice within OneCNC we can open up files like SolidWorks, Step File, Parasolids. In this example, we're going to be loading an AutoCAD DXF file. Now, once the geometry's been imported into OneCNC, it may be necessary to move and rotate. That's what I'm doing here. In fact, I'm grabbing the geometry by this theoretical intersection point, and I'm going to drag it right to the origin, just like that. You can also easily rotate the part by moving into our rotate command. I'm going to rotate around the origin. You can type in a degree, but in that example, I used our digital compass. Now, I think the position and orientation of the part geometry looks great, so now let's take a look at creating some stock geometry. What I'm doing now is I'm changing the default color to something a little bit different, and I'm going to change the line thickness as well. That's purely optional, but I think it's a good example for this. I'm going to go into our line tool, choose rectangle, and instead of using coordinate input to speed things up, I'm just grid point snapping. Now with the stock geometry created, let's head over to the Command Manager, select our stock toolpaths and pocketing. I'm selecting the stock and the part profile, and the first dialog box that always comes up is where we define a tool. You can select a tool from the tool library, that's what I'm doing here, or you can manually create a tool. Here I'm selecting an end mill, and once the end mill is selected, notice how the speeds and feeds are automatically calculated based on what material I have selected. You can also come back in here and make changes, and that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm changing the RPM, the feed rates. I'm even going to change the tool holder here, and notice how the graphics within the dialog box are all dynamic. We're using an end mill. The overall length, I'm going to shorten that to 1.5 inches, and the flute length, I'm going to make that 1.25 inches. I'm also going to change the diameter to 5/8, which is 625 thousandths. Our Z level looks good at -0.5 inch. For strategy, let's use high speed open. We'll click next on that. We can use plunge because we're going to be plunging outside of the part geometry. I'm going to leave 10 thousandths on the side of the part. We'll click finished, and there we go. There is our very first machining operation. Now notice over on the upper right hand side of the screen, our machining operation has been listed within the NC Manager. All right, very good. Let's take a look now at applying a profile operation. We're going to head back over to the Command Manager, select Profile. I'm going to select our part geometry and instruct OneCNC that I want a climb cut. And again, just like before, the first dialog box is where we define a tool. Now I already have a 1/2 inch end mill already defined, so I'll click Next. My depth of cut looks great at -0.5 inches. All this looks good. We're going to leave 0 on the side of the part, and we're going to arc on and arc off. I think all that looks great, so let's go ahead and click Finish and let OneCNC generate the toolpath. Now, one of the great features of OneCNC is the ability to verify your toolpath at any time. In this example, we're taking a look at simulating the toolpath. Here's our roughing operation. You can turn your wireframe geometry on and off. And in just a little bit, I'm going to show you how you can speed the simulation up if you want. Notice how you can also turn backplot on. Backplot's going to show you the feed moves and the rapid moves. Now let's replay this. I'm using random colors, but in the lower left-hand corner, notice how there's a speed control. You can slide it to the right to speed up the simulation or slide it to the left to slow down the toolpath simulation. Now, another powerful asset provided by OneCNC is the machining template. Let me show you how that works. If you look over on the left, we have a group of different machining templates. Simply select the template and it will auto-populate all the menus, and then all you have to do is click through and hit Finish, and the toolpath gets applied. Let's do that again with profiling. I'm going to select the geometry, and then again, if we look over on the left, you can see some machining templates. You can create as many machining templates as you'd like. Simply click on the template, it auto-populates all the menus, and now you've applied Toolpath with proven parameters that you've saved from the past. All right, now let's take a look at hole operations. Let's start with drill single. You have lots of different ways you can select your hole geometry. Here I'm just using Arc Center and simply select the holes in the order that you'd like to drill them. And just like before, the very first dialog box is where you define a tool. And of course, you can use machining templates for this as well. Let's click Next. Our depth of cut looks good. I am going to use a CAN cycle for this. Let's click Next. And for this, I'm going to be using a G83 CAN cycle with a peck depth of 150 thousandths, and I'll click Finished. Now that we've taken a look at the drill single machining operation, let's take a look now at Hole Wizard. Hole Wizard is going to give you the ability to expand on the capability of your hole operations. Let's take a look. We're going to head back over to the Command Manager, select Hole Wizard. Hole Wizard is going to interrogate your part geometry and divide the holes into separate groups. Simply select the group of holes you'd like to apply your toolpath to, set your different parameters for clearance, then click Next, and once you do that, you can apply several hole operations to that group of holes. Here we're going to select Center Drill and Drill. Let's start with Center Drill. I already have a center drill selected. I have all the parameters already put in. Everything looks good on that. We're going to be using a CAN cycle. The incremental hole depth is going to be 50 thousandths. I'm going to be using a CAN cycle. Let's just use a G81. We'll click Finish, and there's the toolpath. Now let's take a look at the drill parameters. For this hole operation, I'm going to be selecting a tool from the tool library. So let's select Tool Changer. Let's head inside of the drill category. I'm going to be selecting a 1/4 inch drill. Notice how the speeds and feeds are automatically calculated. I'm going to change the turret position, then click Next. For this, we're going to be using an incremental depth of cut of, let's say, how about 400 thousandths for that. I also want to output a CAN cycle, so I'll click Next. For this, let's use a G83, and for the peck depth, I'm going to use 125 thousandths. That looks good, so we'll click Finish on that. Now you also have the powerful ability to save all those hole operations as a hole definition. That way you can use that group of hole operations later on by selecting that hole definition from a library. So let's save this. I'm going to go ahead and click the Save button, Save As, and let's save this hole definition as Spot and Drill 250 diameter. And once we click OK, that group of hole operations have been saved as a hole definition, and you can use that hole definition anytime in the future for any group of holes that you'd like. I think it'd be a good time now to simulate all of the toolpaths we've applied to our part geometry. Let's first take a look at our roughing operation. Notice how you can change the graphics attributes of the holder and the tool if you want, making them translucent, or you can hide them. There's our back plot, turn that on and off. You can turn your wireframe geometry on and off. Here we're taking a look at that pocket operation using that 1/4 inch diameter end mill. Each tool is going to have a different color. And by the way, I'm using random colors. I'll show you a different tool color palette in just a second. There's our finish operation. There's our drill single command. And now we're taking a look at Hole Wizard. There's the spot drill and then the peck drill. Now, when simulating toolpath, you can use different color palettes. In this example, let's go to the lower right-hand corner and change it from random to aluminum. I'm also going to hit the restart button, and I'm going to speed up the toolpath simulation just a little bit there. Also notice in the upper right-hand corner, OneCNC displays the actual coordinates of the tool. Now let's take a look at generating CNC code. So we're going to exit out of the toolpath simulation. Let's head over to the NC Manager and select Post Group. From here, we're going to select our post processor. You can select from over 100. I'm going to use the Haas post processor for this. I'm going to type in the part number, and also I'm going to type in the program number as well. Okay, I think that looks good. So let's go ahead and click Post. I'm going to just use the default name there and click Yes to that. And the NC program is now loaded inside of the OneCNC text editor. At this point, you can use any of the OneCNC text editor tools, and you can also upload and download the CNC program using our included RS-232 software. You also have the ability to easily create a setup sheet. This setup sheet is going to be saved in PDF format. That way, you can easily print and share the file as required. All right, that's it for this video. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to contact us. Until then, take care, and we'll talk to you later.